What do you bring to the table? This is such a hot topic question, and quite often you hear a variety of answers. You know, you bring this, you bring that, you bring the other, and a lot of times you'll just hear people say, I am the table. Um, the thing that about asking somebody what they provide is it's all subjective, and it's usually biased because if you ask people to tell you about themselves, they're going to tell you the upside of themselves. It's upselling who they are in character and in productivity and things like that. So when you're talking about asking people what they bring to the table, we have to look at the hidden things, and it's almost like your contract has a fine print to it. So when you're talking about those things, you have to look for the underlining things. That these don't necessarily mean that they're bad things, but you do have to be very aware that when people tell you what they bring to the table, they're not going to mention things up front like trauma. They may have trauma from past relationships that is unresolved, and that's an unhealthy thing. And this isn't to knock anybody. What it is to say is that we need to work on ourselves. So the things that I'm pointing out might be things that we actually bring to the table ourselves and haven't resolved yet. So if you're talking about trauma from childhood, just adolescence, when you're talking about your adulthood or past relationships, if you haven't solved those things out, then you shouldn't be bringing a table to anybody. If you're looking at your finances, I'm not a big proponent of like the whole high value status. I actually tout myself as a low value man because I don't make a lot of money. But my point is, like, if you're going to look to get into something with somebody long term, then they kind of do deserve to know that they may be linked to somebody in debt. So it also puts them in debt, especially if marriage takes place. So those are things that you should mention that you bring to the table. How's your health? Mental health. How's your mental health? Is that another thing that you are mentioning that you bring to the table? Anxiety? Have you been in behavioral health? Have you had issues, breakdowns? Are you in therapy for any of those things? That's an upside to say that I'm in therapy and I'm taking care of these things and addressing them. That's another thing that a lot of times is overlooked when we're talking about what we bring to the table. How's your physical health? And we're going to go two ways with this, but how's your physical health as far as body weight, BMI, things like that, hypertension? Do you have any outlying things that, like, if you, again, if this is a long-term serious thing, then somebody would deserve to know. And I guess, like, if you smoke or drank excessively or did drugs, then that would be something that somebody would need to know if they didn't see the obvious. But if you're talking about having children with a particular person, you should want to know what their health history is, not only in their current state as far as how they take care of themselves, eat and drink daily, but what their family's history is as well. Now, the other part to the health, as far as physical goes, is sexual health, because body count, that's a whole nother topic, but body count can have the ramifications of carrying STIs, and there's a lot of people that are carrying STIs and don't know it, and so they're passing it on. And there's a lot of people that have STIs, STDs, VDs, whatever you want to call them, and they're willing to pass them on. Because it's just how it is, and as we all know, a lot of practices in safe sex don't actually take place. In theory, they should work, but a lot of times they don't. So you have different ways that you're also addressing what somebody brings to the table in a physical sense as well. How's your emotional state? How's your spiritual state? What are you bringing to the table when it comes to that? Have you really reconciled with yourself, with your emotions? Do you have yourself in check? These are all things that a lot of times when you hear people talking about what they bring to the table, they're only touting themselves up as far as how much money they make, as far as what they are. I'm supportive. I can lend this or that, or I'm independent. Like, there's a lot of things that people will say that they bring to the table, but are they telling you the real things that we've all been to at a restaurant where a table has like gum and boogers and other things under the table? What's under the table? Like, you're bringing a table, but what's under the table? So are the legs sturdy? Like, you can bring a table, but if it's not built sturdy, if it's been used too much, are there scratches on it, like things like that? If we're just talking about a table, then what are we bringing? Like, truly, what's this table made of? How many people does it seat? Because a lot of times I see tables that are only for one, because there's a lot of selfishness going on, and we have to understand that when people are saying that they're finding their self-love, they're actually in selfish. So if that table only seats one, it's not going to be room for you. How many, are they about family? Are they about the community? Are they about other people? You'll see that because you'll see how many people can actually sit at this table. You'll see how sturdy it is. That's their character. So there's a lot of things to that. The presentation, is it wiped off? Is it, waxed? Is it, or polished and things like that? There's just so many things to it. So a table isn't just a table, because a card table is not the same as a full-length, dinner table, or, an oak, desk, or things like that. So what is the table? And is it just a serving table, or is it something like a desk? As somebody saying, I bring this a desk because I'm capable of supporting the household or the relationship in an administrative way, where somebody else might bring something that's more like an easel, and that's their table because they can think in a creative way. Or somebody's bringing a kitchen island because that's where their strong suits are at. So what is it? What table are they bringing? Pool table, and who knows what that could mean. They bring the entertainment to life, the values, things like that. And it doesn't mean that they're just stuck in one thing, but you might see somebody bringing multiple tables. So I never really am big on the question or answering it. I think you just have to see in your own way and time, because each person coupling is going to be different. So what values you see in them are probably what they're reflecting, because you're bringing them to that person. So it's a reflective sort of thing, and how you are going to get along, what's your compatibility, what's your chemistry, things like that. So this is just a random kind of thought, as I've just been kind of off, making some videos the last week or so, but hopefully this is a topic that comes back strong and you guys enjoy it. Put your ace up the sleeve, advice, comment, experience as far as the table talk and all that good stuff. Can't wait to hear the comments. I appreciate the likes. Likes really do help the flow and the life of the channel. So please like these videos as you see them. Comments do as well. If you haven't hit the notifications, that would be great as well. And I'm going to leave it at that. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, love, unity, solidarity. So, when it's such a hot topic, when people talk about, like, what do you bring to the table? And then they tell you, I bring this, that, the other. But then it's like, what don't people tell you that they bring? You know what I mean? So I was talking about the things to look for, but these are often things that we have in ourselves that we don't even recognize. So do you have trauma that you haven't resolved before you get into the next relationship? You know what I mean? Like, things like that. How have you taken care of your health? Not only your physical health, like how you eat, drink on a daily basis, but what about your sexual health? So that parlays into the whole body count topic. And so does body count matter? Because honestly, you can get an STD or anything else life-changing from just one encounter, but your chances increase, with more partners. And then there's the stat that it's geared at women more for men, but the more encounters that women have sexually, the harder it is, the shorter their marriages actually are. It's like a 60% rate of women who have divorced with a higher body count, because I think what the consensus is that once you start getting out there and you just experience a whole bunch of things, trying to lock yourself into one thing becomes harder. So you might not be as compatible sexually with one person if you had a whole bunch of people. So I think that's probably true for guys too, but you always get like the pushback on biology that men are supposed to, spread their seed, that's what we do. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the table talk?
I don't know. That's very interesting. Especially everything you just said about the women. I never really thought about that. I've been with one woman
Okay.
since I was 16. So,
Oh, for real?
yeah.
That's what's up.
So I don't really know about bringing to the table because only
You guys built your table.
yeah.
That's
together.
what's up. That's what, yeah, yeah. And then I kind of talked about, are all tables the same? So somebody might just bring like a folding card table versus what if it's like a kitchen island because they're good in the kitchen? What if
Right.
it's like a billiards table? What if it's an easel because they're creative? Like, we can't have a certain expectation of what the table's supposed to be. We have to allow they bring what they bring, and then we figure that out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then do we have the space to recognize that somebody might just bring like, you know, a little school desk, which means it's seated for one. So this person might be extremely selfish and they don't realize it, because this whole journey of talking about I'm on self-love and selfish, there's a real fine line. And when people talk about self-love and I need me time, I agree wholeheartedly, but sometimes people take it a little too far.
Yeah.
Especially when you have either kids or a significant other or things like that. So I don't know, they're just random thoughts that kind of pop up. So I was like, let me speak to them. But so how long have you been with your girlfriend?
14 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah. 14 years.
That's-
That's been the only one. And like what you said about the table, that's real true, you know, because I ain't gonna lie, I was one of those ones that was kind of selfish.
Mhm.
You know, she had to open me up, and
Okay.
you know, so yeah, I see your little point on that.
But you guys are so young together. So did you like kind of build your own program? Because then there's the whole thing about like one person gets on the other person's program, but when you're that young,
Right. See, we wasn't on the same program.
Okay.
We had to grow
Yeah.
to be on the same page. Yeah. We was both wilding and you know doing our own little thing,
right?
and we came together and I guess became one little table. You know, so
That's what's up.
Yeah. I don't really think too much about that.
No, you would. But I mean, you're in a loving, you know, like solid relationship. So I think it's for everybody else that kind of has to think about these things, because you don't have to worry about like somebody else bringing, you know, like what somebody else is bringing, because you've built that with somebody. So
Yeah.
that longevity is powerful. And that's the hard part, because
Hey.
it's a monster out there these days trying to deal with what people will tell you that they are. So people aren't even catfishing like with pictures anymore.
It's
They're
just they
catfishing
self.
with their character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. It's like I'm this, I'm that, and I have this, I have that, and it's like, no, you don't.
It's like the longer the time go past, you really see who that person is. They get to
Yep.
showing you what they want to show you just to will you on in. And then shit, it could be totally different. No matter if it could be like selfishness or just their character. Just, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be anything for real. It's hard. Shit, it's hard, honestly, when you trying to build something with somebody. Like, even if you build with somebody for so long, it's still hard. You know, the work just never ends, for real. Like, you ain't got to worry about what that person brings to the table, but you know,
Are they upkeeping the table?
right, you know, like,
yeah.
is we still growing together? Is we still vibing? You know, like,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that still come to play. So
That's a great point.
I never really thought about that. You know, like, yeah.
That's a great point as far as like the work that it takes to maintain. So if you built something, it takes maintenance. Like we see inside the warehouse, these machines are not well maintained
At all.
So those red lights start coming on. So are these red flags when it comes to like just, you know, your emotional state or your, you know, your compatibility at some point? Because that's a great point. I split with my children's mother. Like, it was decades. It was like 20 years
Yeah.
that we got to, and then we just got to a point, no animosity, but we weren't maintaining the table
y'all
that
weren't
way.
on the same page.
Yeah, and it happens to a lot of people, and I think that's the other part. I think people are scared in a lot of ways to get into something like having to build a table with someone else, because it's like, how, you know, when is this going to fall apart? But if you build it right, it won't.
It won't. And if you just keep trying to build it, it won't.
Yeah.
It won't, for real. Just keep the effort.
So do you have like friends or family that you see like going through this, like that they have to wonder like what somebody else's table is like that are out there dating and trying to do all that?
Well, I kind of witnessed it growing up with my parents, my mom and my stepdaddy.
Mm.
You know, they was together all my youth years. You know, growing
That's cool.
up all the way until I was in middle school.
Okay.
So you know, like, and it didn't work out with them. And they felt like they had to make it work. You know, they felt like they had to force it for a family unity. You know, but in all reality, it wasn't working between them.
So they finally split when you were in middle school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And shit, it works for the better. Shit, my stepdaddy ended up getting married to somebody else. I mean, my mom's not married, but she happy with somebody else.
Right,
You know,
right.
It just works out sometimes when you just realize y'all ain't meant to be. Like, 'cause sometimes, unfortunately, just make y'all both unhappy.
That's real. And it's harder the older you get, because like I was telling a friend, like people aren't clay anymore, they're just stone. So
Right, that's true.
now you're not molding things, you got to sculpt it. You know, like you got to tink.
Right.
And people have to allow themselves to be molded or sculpted in somebody else's image, and that's a hard thing to do, especially if you've been a single parent, if you've just been out here dating too long, and you know, people get jaded real quick. So
real fast. And shit, or you just beside yourself. You just so beside yourself, you ain't even looking out and reading in between the lines and seeing, or even trying to open up to the changes. You know, like that just all comes to play. Not even in relationships, but in life.
yeah.
You know, I'm realizing that now. Like if I want to go further with myself, you know, I'm gonna have to open up me. You know, like be understanding and just willing to take, you know, like some criticism. Like
Right.
That's hard for me.
It
You
is.
know, it's hard for me to take criticism without getting angry or offended or, you know, or like want to shut down.
I do the same, and I've been through a lot of that. I know exactly where you're coming from, and a big part of like what I've done and tried to adapt is having accountability and acceptance and the ability to apologize. So
Yeah.
I can apologize to myself for not knowing, because we're not supposed to know anything, but then I have to openly accept what somebody may be telling me or a truth about myself that's uncomfortable, and then just move on from there. But to accept all that is the accountability, and that's a big part that people don't want to, you know, they deflect. Nah, that's not me, or you're tripping, or you know, you're a hater.
Yeah.
That's the big one. You just hating. It's like, no, I wouldn't tell you. Like, I'm at the point in life where I gain nothing by steering people wrong. Like if I'm trying to impart something, it's not a hard criticism. It's just like it's more constructive than destructive. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to
okay.
tear anyone down.
Yeah. I'm just now getting to that stage. I wish I was more like that, for real.
It's a beautiful place, but and again, almost like with the fitness, the fact that you want to do it is winning half the battle right off the bat. Is because most people won't, if they don't change their mind, they won't change their lives. And so once that change or that curiosity sparks in your brain, and then you want to start seeking things out, that's where, you know, I started doing like more reading, audiobooks, just the material that I was looking at online, things that I would, you know, queue up, and, you know, I was just, you know, just randomly picking things out, the things I pushed out of my life. So eating better, I did less junk food, less alcohol, things like that. Started eating, you know, kale, and I don't know, just this slow change comes, but it reminds me of the same thing. I just started having this calling in the back of my head, just realizing like I can do better. I need to do better. You cold yet?
I've been cold for real.
All right, let's get in. All right, guys, we're gonna stop chatting, but I appreciate your time.
Alright, good.
Peace, love, unity, solidarity.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah? Okay. I know, right?
Why are you facing me?
Huh?
Why is it facing me while I'm eating?
I know. Check her out. So let's see.
Do you need a light?
When people talk about, do we got light? Do we got
Is
light?
that better?
That works.
Okay.
When people talk about, when somebody asks you what you bring to the table, what do you think?
Or what I bring to the table?
Yeah, what would you list?
Loyalty.
Okay.
Honesty.
Okay.
Fun.
Okay.
I don't know.
Give me two more. Give me two more.
Two more. Support.
Okay.
Like support for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Compromise.
Compromise. Okay. Okay. So I've never been asked, but I don't even know what I would say. But so where I'm going with this is, we always list our best attributes.
Okay.
Is it fair that we don't say what kind of trauma that we have? Like, that is something you bring to the table.
People bring that to the table all the time.
So do we not owe it to somebody going into something? Because you said honesty,
Yeah.
but then you're telling all your good attributes, which it's how we should lead. But then at some point, when does that surprise? When does that plot twist come? That
Now, when you say like right off the bat, are you meaning like someone that you already started dating, or you're kind of seeing, or just like right off the bat, brand new person?
I wouldn't say first date, or anything like that. But I mean, when you have the what do you bring to the table conversation, so that might be first date. So is it fair at that point? Because if somebody's going to ask, or you're asking, how much transparency do we have at that point?
I mean, I guess if you're like completely honest right off the bat, be like, hey, this is me, or this is how I like things. Yeah, that's a good thing, but I think it could also be a bad thing, because what if it just scares the person off just like right off the bat? Like, oh, I don't know if I want to deal with this person.
Would we just turn about and say, like, in most cases, for a lot of women that say he wasn't man enough?
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
No, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of times isn't that like the blessing though, that you just figure out that they're not for you? I mean,
yeah.
I guess you're not telling them horror stories, and it doesn't have to be like your deepest, darkest trauma. But I mean, I think more often than not, we sell ourselves as something, as an asset, but we carry a lot of liabilities. Emotional liabilities, like I can't get you financially in trouble, you know what I mean, unless maybe we're married or something to that effect. But if I have like a ongoing issue, like if it's an underlying problem where this is how my relationships kind of tank themselves because of something on my end, if it's a trust issue, if it's something along those lines, is that fair to say? I mean, how early on would we talk about, we all have exes,
Yeah.
children, co-parenting,
baggage, or
right?
I don't think that would be wrong to let somebody know. Be like, because if you're comfortable enough to start talking about relationships with previous people, what if the other person's like, okay, well then, why didn't it work?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people ask that. Like what happened. I know I've been asked that, like right off the bat, and so I think it does open up a conversation to kind of like, if you want to know somebody's experiences, then you're gonna have to know about them. And so I don't know, I'm just looking to find out like what is fair, because again, we always bring our best attributes to say this is what we bring to the table, but there has to be some downside to some of it, or maybe not a downside, but something that makes us actually more human. As an actual selling point. And then what kind of table is it? Because not everybody has the same table. So like, you're very homemaker-ish in that way, so your table is more like a cooking island, whereas somebody else like is like, what I'm saying, like it's your personality. So your table isn't just a table, it's a reflection of who you are.
Because I'm like I like to cook, I like to clean, but even though I may do the majority of that stuff, I still would like a person who pitches in, who I don't have to be like, hey, can you help me with something? Like, they just automatically do it, because I'm not the only person living in the house.
Right.
Also, you know, they can contribute also.
Well, you've gone pretty deep then, so you're jumping right to them living
Oh, well,
with you.
yeah, okay, that's a little too far, I guess.
So what about the ability to recognize when it's not even a table, it's just like one of those school desks for one? Can you recognize that somebody's extremely
this
selfish?
is just not gonna work.
Yes, and this is like, I don't, like, narcissist is such a, I don't know, hot topic word, but if they are just an individual, you know, I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I mean, isn't that fair to, you know, see what somebody's bringing to a table to see if it's an actual table? Like, how many does this table seat? Are they family oriented? Is this a table that, because from my end, if somebody has a table that's going to feed like 50 people, that's terrific, but I'm not that type.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you're all about family, that's great. But if my weekends are ultimate, and I've seen guys go through this where they're at their girlfriend's parents' house every weekend.
Like every weekend.
Every weekend. And it's just like,
just because maybe that the girl wants that?
Yes,
or...
because she's so close to her family. So it's like, okay, this is a table, but it's like, it's more like a banquet hall. You know, it's like a banquet table. So yeah, that's great to, you know, be immersed in like family and stuff like that. And for some people that'd be great, but I would want certain freedoms to be able to, like, I just remember, like, my friend, he couldn't even go play basketball. We'd want to go play basketball, and it was just an issue. And then once he had a kid with her, he was handcuffed to that house. And it was just like, so anytime I hung out with him, I had to go there. So by proxy, like, I was handcuffed into it too. So like the size of the table, like, I guess I wouldn't want like a single, but it could be more than like a folding poker table too, which to me seems like you have a lot of ability to pick up and move on. You know, a folding table is it's not a good table to look at.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely something that you want to let somebody know, because just personally, I like my personal space also, but I love doing things together. But I mean, you got to have that balance of, you know, you had a life before, you know, you got together, and it's like, you know, you can't just expect somebody to just give all of that up.
Right. What about stability? What if the legs are all shaky? What does that tell you? What is that?
Need some work.
So they're not like, their foundation isn't
it's
good?
not
like,
completely off, you know, like, you know, it's not horrible right out, you know, there might be some fixing there, but
okay. I mean, like, because the presentation of the table too, there's so many things, like, I bring this to the table, but then the table it's like got scratch marks all in it, or it's not, there's crumbs on it.
Buff that out.
So you're willing to take a fixer upper?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, someone doesn't have to be completely perfect.
What's your table like?
What's my table?
Yeah.
It's not perfect. I'm sure there's a little, you know, some bumps and bruises in there.
Shaky legs?
But I mean, I compromise. I adapt. I mean, yes, I like things a certain way, but I'm okay with hearing someone else's side.
Okay. So what would you want in a table? What would you want somebody else's table to look like?
I mean, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I know I'm not perfect. And the older I get, the less
picky.
I'm picky. Yeah, I'm not.
You're more picky? Or
no,
less
I'm
picky?
less picky. Yeah, I'm not like, oh, you know. Well, like we've had that conversation before, where like, oh, most girls are like, oh, you have to be this tall and this, you know, like I'm not that picky. Yeah, I like taller guys only because I'm short, but
how does that work though? Like, why would you? I mean, okay, you like taller guys, taller as in just taller than you, or taller as in society?
No, just taller than like me, like he doesn't have to be perfect. I just like taller guys, you know, because like if I have to reach something off the top counter, like I don't want him to have to grab the stool like I do.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Fair enough. Okay.
But the guy doesn't have to, you know, be rich or, you know, be perfect in the way like they look or anything. Like, I like normal people. I don't need some person who's like super successful or I don't know. Like, I like average, fun people.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be like a hand-carved oak table or anything like
No.
that. I'm just
It
asking.
can be a basic wood, or, you know.
Wood is good.
Wood.
Wood is good. Okay, that's a good start.
I guess not paper. Or
Yeah,
crumbles.
I've never seen a paper table, so that
We're
would be
putting this
interesting.
in a table perspective.
So is it fair though? I mean, going back to the top of it, is it fair like we should divulge more than just all of what? And a lot of times, what we sell ourselves as is just our perception. It's not even the reality.
Mhm.
That, you know, hey, you can say you're supportive, but it depends. Like, what if I wanted to do heroin?
Well, no.
Well, that's not very supportive. Now is it? Now is it?
Okay, but how is it? That's a little.
It's not very supportive.
That's extreme.
I want to do smack, and you're not helping.
I'm
You can't go.
not
You can't go
gonna-
score some
I'm
for
not
me.
gonna participate in
Okay,
that.
I'm just
Not if
saying.
it's like illegal.
What if it was legal?
No, I don't do drugs.
I didn't ask you to
I
do it.
know.
They're for me. They're for me. Get your own drugs. See, that
Oh,
table.
Then you won't share.
That table is not. Those legs are looking shaky. All right, I'm gonna leave you alone.
You're fine.
I got nothing else. What
It's
do you?
almost time to go back anyway.
It is. All right. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
Oh boy. Wouldn't even do heroin for me. Okay, so we've been talking about like dating and kind of modern woman and all that stuff. So, what are your thoughts about the whole bringing people? What people bring to the table?
Like as far as bringing everybody to the table or bringing women in?
When people say, "I know what I bring to the table," or somebody asks you what you bring to the table.
Oh, man, and women. Well, I'm gonna speak for men first. Like, I'm gonna speak for me. Like, what I bring to the table, I bring, you know, the weight, like the pressure, and what I can explain by that is what I like breaking down in detail. It's like I'm a provider as a man first.
Okay.
So, as seeing that as being a man, like my job is to provide for our setting and our place and wherever we at to make sure that you are comfortable enough and your headspace can, you know, make the family, make us feel comfortable as a whole. Because, you know what I mean, you protecting the nest. I'm making sure everything else is square where you ain't got to worry about nothing but the nest.
Right. So, what should women bring to the table?
Value, you know what I mean? Value, understanding, kindness, peace, joy, you know what I mean? Like, what I mean by understanding is like when your man going through something, say he going through a situation, you know, life situations, anything, you know what I mean? I'm speaking for all races. You know, men go through in all races their own situations, their own categories, their own stuff. But saying this is that you know he comes with that weight. So take that weight off his shoulders, take that weight off his plate, or whatever it is, plate, shoulders, whatever is on him, you know what I mean? Or if you even can't take it off, just help him ease it. You know, ease his mind. Ease the pain a little bit to help him understand. It doesn't have to necessarily mean sexually. You know what I mean? It could mean, because sometimes, you know, some women like to take it misconstrued sometimes of somebody being like, you know, well, you want to take somebody's mind off. No. Just simply like have a conversation with me. Talk to me. You know what I mean? Tell me, you know, ask me about my day. Ask me what's actually going on with me, not just, hey, babe, look, you know, what's going on with your day though? Normal, no, what's really going on with you? How did that make you feel? How did that, you know, get that stuff off your chest? You know what I'm saying? And that's where I feel like women miss the mark at, is that they're so busy trying to be the man and the independent woman and really not being like, let me get behind independence.
Right.
And I know women are saying right now, well, most men don't know how to follow or don't know how to lead at this point, so I gotta lead. Well, you looking in the wrong territory, baby. You feel me? You just looking in the wrong situation. You looking in the wrong area. You looking in the wrong place, because there's men truly out there leading their situation, and that's what I mean by a real man brings to the table. I bring pressure, because I'm making sure everything's shake and everything makes sure, you know, the table's getting placed. You know what I'm saying?
Fact. So do you think when we talk about what we bring to the table in fairness, because everybody will talk about like the positive side of this stuff, but should we be talking about like our shortcomings as far as like if you have trauma or if she has problems with, you know, with her children's father, like at what point should transparency be extremely clear? Because we definitely build up like our pros, but we have to be real about our cons as well.
I think it's a yin and a yang thing. I think people, you know, miss the mark of like, you need the trauma to, if you didn't have trauma, how would you know what real peace and real joy felt like?
Facts.
You know what I mean? So you need both sides of the spectrum. So if you didn't go through what you went through and understand what you went through, you'd be still being like, you know, what you call privileged at that point. You know what I mean? So you don't understand that person's perspective because you've been privileged enough or spoon-fed your whole life that you don't understand what that person has been through or had to get to there. So we can't even have a decent conversation. But I believe life is about yin and yang. So if you have that light, and that's how people connect, is like, yo, you can understand my darkness. So, but also in that same breath, let's make sure we shine a light on that yang where we can get out of that darkness together. And I think that's where, you know, the culture, our culture miss it, for sure.
Yeah. So, what kind of table do you think you bring? Because as I think about this more, there's so many different kinds of tables.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? Some people bring like all they got is a folding poker table.
Okay.
Crystal, I talked to her. We kind of, you know, she's like a homemaker, so it was kind of like a kitchen island. Some people are just going to be very utilitarian, so it's like a workman's bench. What kind of table do you bring?
Shoot, man, I'm trying to think of one of those. You know, me, I feel like I carry myself as a 1%er, so I bring one of those corporate tables. Okay. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to bash myself or like big up myself. I'm just speaking facts. Like, so, you know, I can't even think about everything else. Like, if I bring to the table, I like gardening, so I run the cultivation. So okay. I feel like when I was just in New York these past couple of months ago, I had a thought to myself, like, one of these buildings is gonna be mine. So that's the type of thinking and processing things, like how I was really doing.
We're doing the table talk. He's breaking us down.
So, you know what I mean? That's what I mean by I bring weight to the table for myself, is that like, I can't talk about nobody else because I don't know the experiences or what they do. But me, I'm bringing one of them corporate tables. Like, okay.
What kind of table do you want somebody to bring?
One of those Asian Chinese tables, you know what I mean? Where you can't sit down, you can't pull up a chair. You gotta sit down with your knees and you know, cross your legs, and you can't pull up your shoes and none of that. I need one of them type of tables to be next to me, because I got the corporate table. Don't worry about that. I need one of those peaceful, soft tea tables.
That's okay. I didn't ask you what kind of table do you bring?
Me?
Yeah, but so hers is way different. She's been with the same partner for, what'd you say, 14 years? Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So hers is different because you were talking about you built the table together, which is a crazy kind of sturdy. You know what I mean? The big thing that we had talked about also is recognizing if somebody's actually just sitting at like one of those school desks. Because if it's a seat for one, then they may not be ready for anybody else. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's true.
But what size is your table too? Because if you're just sitting for yourself, that's cool, but you're not ready for somebody else. And to the flip, I'm kind of an introvert, so I may come into somebody's room, you know, and their table is built for, you know, like a cafeteria where it stretches from here across the room, and they're all about large groups and things like that. I'm not at that level either. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like recognizing what the table is. I don't even know what my table is at this point.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's one of those questions that talking to people around me kind of helps me figure out, like, okay, this is kind of where I could be at, or this is kind of what I would want. But you guys definitely have imparted some wisdom, so I appreciate your time. We gotta get back to work.